This morning, we're driving the BMW 430i, the M Sport package, and it's a Gran Coupe version of the 4 Series. The new BMW grille is huge, enormous, and it's a very controversial point of this car because people don't like the new looks of the BMW lineup. And I don't know what I feel about this, but it definitely makes the car look more aggressive, that's for sure, but I think I kind of prefer the older, smaller kidney look of the grille before. But we got those cool BMW LED lights, and it actually says on the right side here, the BMW LED. BMWs are famous for their taillights and headlights design, and this one definitely not disappoints. I know that a lot of journalists and car enthusiasts prefer the older BMW look, but we cannot deny that these 20-inch wheels look amazing in this M Sport package. We got those very cool Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss, which are, one of the best cars on the market. So we get this BMW in the dark green color, which I dig. It's very sharp looking. The back of the new 4 Series Gran Coupe, I don't know what I feel about it as well, but I think it grew on me for the last couple of days. So let's see first actually one of the highlights of this car, which is the rear hatch. And it's enormous. Look at this huge opening right here. And I feel like this is an SUV type of storage you have in the back in this 4-door sedan. We got this extra storage for you on the right and left side. You can put those seats down to have even more cargo space. Of course, this hatch is automatic, closes by itself. Let's look at the back seat room. I'm 5'8". This seat is configured for myself. I got lots of knee room, but the only downside is that you don't have a lot of headroom, and my head is basically hitting the roof all the time because this is not a 3 Series, it's a 4 Series Gran Coupe, which means has more of aggressive roof line, and as you can see, it goes down quite significantly right here, which eliminates some of the headroom you got in the back. But let's look at the front and fire her up. We got this cool animation once you enter the car. This famous BMW chime you get for not fastening your safety belts. Yeah, this is the previous generation of the BMW interior design, and the second latest, BMW's infotainment system, which I like a lot. Because we got this knob like you get in some of the Mazdas with the buttons, and then it works so well in this car, and it gives you an ability to use your infotainment with touchscreen if you want, or using this knob. The infotainment itself is brilliant, it's so easy to use, it's so responsive. Of course, we got wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and they give us options to configure our steering. We can configure our engine as well to either Sport or Comfort, and you can also configure your transmission to be Sport or Comfort as well. So we got these physical controls for your AC. We got really nice steering wheel. I like it a lot. We got this M badge because it's an M Sport package. We got ambient lighting. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera right now, but it's very good looking at night for sure. We got 2 memory seating. We got physical buttons for your light controls. Everything is very nicely laid out for you to use. We got physical buttons on your steering wheel as well. We got shift pedals too. And we get this digital cluster, which is not very aggressive, quite easy to read, and it's very intuitive. It's quite configurable what you see in this digital cluster, but I prefer to be seeing the map right in the center, along with the Apple CarPlay. But yeah, what else? We got this black liner for your roof line, which looks quite good. We get an automatic sunroof as well, which is very easy to use, nice in the summer. This storage right here is for your cup holders and your wireless charger. We get nice, decent amount of room in your center console as well, and a pretty decent storage for your glove box too. Nice sized door bins too. The overall quality of this car is quite nice, but I feel like BMW chipped out in this car a little bit, considering this car cost around $46,000 when it was new in 2022. The plastics here are quite cheap and quite scratchy. They are all around you, and I don't like this trend of newer German cars to chip out on their interiors. Alright, let's get going. We start off in comfort mode. The first thing that I noticed in this car is that it's very, very quiet and comfortable, especially in comfort mode. And since I haven't driven any BMW before, it was quite strange to me because the car looks very sporty from the outside. So I guess my first impression is that it looks more sporty than it actually is. But it's not a bad thing. Lots of people nowadays prefer to drive a luxury, quiet car in comparison to very compromised sporty cars. So this makes sense. This car has auto start option, which I turn off every time I enter this car because it irritates me so much in every stop and stoplight. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like this feature in any car I have driven in. The steering is very light and non-communicative, which is, of course, tuned for comfort and luxury. And this is something that I myself don't prefer as much because I like the car with better feel. And I feel like in BMW ethos is more about driving enjoyment, so that's why it was quite disappointing to me that this car has no steering feel whatsoever. But even though the steering is dead in this car, you still feel that the car is nimble and very easy to toss around corners. And it kinda hides the whole weight of this car because this car is quite heavy, but it still feels like a small sedan. And since it's the 430i, we got the 2-liter B48 4-cylinder engine that produces 255 horsepower, and it is paired to the ZF8 transmission, which is 8-speed automatic. And I also tried to use the manual mode in this car to change the gears myself, and it's very responsive. I was quite surprised because I have driven a PDK before in the 718 Boxster just a week ago, and it's still very responsive even compared to the PDK. My general impression of this car is that it has great looks, has a nice interior, and it actually feels very sporty when you look at it, when you sit in it, but it is actually a very comfortable commuter. It's not as sporty as it looks because it's very, very insulated. It's very quiet, as you can hear right now. It's very, very refined, very smooth. There's lack of feel of the engine, of the steering, of the car itself. So inevitably it feels more of a luxury car rather than a sports car. And I understand this is due to the fact that this is the 430i, which is a base engine option in this car. Of course, if you get the B58 engine in this car, or if you get the M4, it will become instantly much more fun, much more sporty. But in this configuration, I feel like this car is more about luxury than sportiness. And even though I prefer sporty cars, it still doesn't mean that this car is bad or something. It's actually quite good for what it is, if you understand what is the goal of this car. And I feel like the goal of this car is to make you feel like you own something sporty, sharp looking, but actually you just drive a very nice luxury car every day to work or to pick up your kids or something. And in a very short while we'll discover what it's like to drive it in sport mode. But before we do this, I just want to say that the car feels very planted in the corners. The suspension is very nicely tuned. Even though it's leaning more towards luxury, it still has this very sporty feel. Even at this sharp turn right here, it feels very, very confident to hit this corner right here. And the handling in this car is sublime, so you don't actually lose the preciseness and sportiness in terms of handling in this car, even though it's a base 4 Series. So right now it feels like we got a very good stretch of the road, so we put ourselves in sport mode. I'll go into manual mode as well to change the gears myself. So now I'm changing the gears. As I said, it's very, very responsive. And the engine starts to actually get alive once you use the pedals. The downshifts are crisp, smooth, and easy. So probably this is one of the reasons this car still feels sporty, is the very responsive transmission of the ZF8. And since it's a 4-cylinder 2-liter engine, it's not very, very fun to listen to. It's still very potent because it has 255 horsepower, and it gets from 0 to 60 in about 5.5 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's quite fun to go through the gears. This car feels very nimble in the city. It's easy to merge on the highway. It's easy to park. So I feel like this engine does everything that it's supposed to do at this base 4 Series. But once you get to these neighborhoods, you just go into the comfort mode. You don't hear the engine that much, and it just feels like a very, very quiet and nice ride. We're missing a lot from this BMW to actually call this car sporty enough, in my opinion. I just recently drove the GR86, and it felt much, much more fun. Of course, it was a manual, but still, even when you drive a GR86 at 50 miles per hour, it's so fun, and it feels like you're driving 80 miles per hour. Because the car is very small, you're very low to the ground. Even though this car is faster than the GR86 in the straight line, it still doesn't feel like you're going that quick, because the car is quite heavy, and it's just not as fun to go in a straight line. And I feel like Teslas do that better. So if you buy this car for straight line performance, I don't think this is the advantage of this car. So let's quickly talk about the driving position in the 4 Series. And it's not as low as I expected, but still it's quite perfect for this kind of sedan. You got great visibility with huge side mirrors as well. I feel like the rear view is quite compromised because of the hatch, but it's still pretty usable for everyday driving. The seats themselves are great. I gotta praise the BMW seating engineers for getting this right. It's very well bolstered. It doesn't feel like you're being tossed around in this cabin. And I feel like they're made for longer journeys, because this is a very great highway car. Let's quickly show you the acceleration from this engine, and we can wrap things up with a summary. So yeah, as I said, this car gets going pretty quickly, but it doesn't throw you back in the seat like you will feel in the Model 3 Performance, for example, or you could even feel it in the GR86. Once you go through the gears, you can actually feel yourself being tucked into the seats. But this car, because of this weight, I'm repeating myself again, you don't feel that you're going that quick. I prefer myself driving a little more enthusiastically, but whenever I get into this car, I don't actually want to drive it very hard. I want to drive it in comfort mode all the time, because it's so nice, so quiet, and it's just so comfortable. And I feel like this car is more about what it looks like and what it feels like inside. And I know that many people love the looks of this new 4 Series. They love the interior quality and the technology you got in this car. So I guess if you want to buy this car, you should be looking at something that is very luxurious, very smooth, a very nice daily driver, but at the same time you want it to be looking very sharp, very sporty. So if you're into this type of thing, driving casually, driving normally, and enjoying yourself on your daily drive, being comfortable, but feeling like you're driving something special, something fast, this car is for you. This is an interesting car for me because this is the first BMW I drove, and my father had a BMW X5 back in 2006, and it was so much more raw and so much more sporty, even in the SUV form. So for me, it was quite surprising to learn that BMW makes these type of cars, which look sporty but don't actually feel like it. But I understand the modern buyers of these cars, and I respect that. I have borrowed this BMW 4 Series from my friend, and he actually rents this car out on Turo. If you're living or visiting LA area or Orange County, please don't hesitate to check my friend's profile. He has a great selection of other cars, including Model 3 Performance and BMW M4. You can find the link to the Turo profile of my friend and this BMW 4 Series in the description below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.